Kun. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua. Back at it with another W5 history lesson. I know we took a long break through the spirit, getting some things right, but all praise to the Most High. We can are able to come back and do these live videos through the spirits, brother Zabayala.
Brother Marcos.
And most I willing, we can continue rolling with these. Now going to be on Sabbath mornings, early Sabbath mornings. If you want to tap in and get into the history with us, most I willing to kick off the second part of the day, the Shabbat. All praises to the Most High. This is titled "A Life of the Disciples," and the things that they went through, understanding what we're gonna have to go through. In the future, pilgrims on the earth, contending for the Lord's name at the highest level. Let me get this precept real quick. Let me share my screen. So Most High willing, we can learn from the history because we know what the future holds through this prophecies. Let me share my screen real quick. Let me know if you can see my screen, God. Okay, Khan. Let's get this real quick. You see my screen?
Kind of can see it. It's loaded right now.
Okay.
I see it.
Okay, Khan. All praise to Yahweh Shem Shah. Let me pull this up real quick. This is going to be the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 16. And let's start at verse, man. And all it in 2nd Ezra 16 chapter, as we know, goes into what's going to happen, what's going to come upon our earth. Right? It's 2nd Ezra chapter 16 and verse number 39. Even so shall not the plagues be slack to them that come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side. Right? O my people, hear my word, make you ready to the battle. The Lord says, make you ready to the battle, and in those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth. So even now we encourage brothers to travel, and do the work in these different states as our forefathers did. But it's going to come a time where you're going to have to travel regardless, because the Lord said, be even as pilgrims upon the earth. And that's the time we get to prepare for. So it's meet that we go into the life of the disciples, see how their ministry was, and how we can apply it as well. Let me go to the book Hebrews real quick. Chapter 12. All right. Because one thing about us, this Hebrews chapter 12, and I'll start at verse number 2. Looking unto Yahushua, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of the Most High. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest you be wearied and faint in your minds. You have not resisted unto blood, striving against sin. And that's the point. Our forefathers resisted unto blood, striving against sin. James was beheaded. King Nero, Emperor Nero beheaded Paul, killed Peter, and crucified him upside down. We haven't gone through these things as we will, but our forefathers resisted yet unto blood. So we got to go into the life of the apostles, their ministry, even where they've been, and see how it was, because these are the things that's coming to us. But you got it. You have some, King? I don't know if you can hear me. Oh, he got kicked out. Brother got kicked out. And that's Satan. I'm gonna revite the brother back. But all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Let's get another one real quick. Matter for all the brother backstage. Hold on. And get this brother back up in here, man. See, as soon as we started back, Satan starts attacking. All praises to Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man. We back in this thing, man. We back in this thing. Let's see. Okay, Khan. Let's get back into it. Let's get another precept. Let's go to the book of Romans. Yeah, Khan, let's get the book of Romans. Because like I said, man, we got to understand these things, like the book of Acts. These things will be happening to us. Right? Come. This is the book of Acts, chapter 12, and verse 1. Now, about that time, Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church, and he killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. So he killed James, the brother of John. These are the things. Let's go to Revelation 20 and 5. This is what we got to prepare for. This is the ministry of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, but as we always say, it's high risk, high reward. We're going to have to go through it for the Lord, man. You're going to be outside, depending on what region you're in. Maybe cold outside as a pilgrim on the earth, maybe hot. You got to know the wildlife around you, know what birds are unclean and clean. Hey, because you're going to be living as pilgrims, as we brought out earlier. Right? This Revelation 20, all these laws being signed into place, all these deep secret councils against the Israelites, dissidents. Lord willing, brothers are watching the lives, understanding what they're doing upon the earth, right, to combat this ministry. And it says, and I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahweh Shai and for the word of God. So you're going to see a lot of martyrs, brothers and sisters that got to give up their life for this truth. Right? And I was reading 2 Maccabees, the 7th chapter the other day, and those 7 sons, 2 Maccabees, the 6th chapter, with Eleazar being 90 years old, having to give up their life for the ministry. That was just their lot. That may be your lot. That may be my lot. Right? And it says, in which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with the Mashiach 1,000 years. So we want to go into the history of our fathers, as we always brought out in Job chapter 8 and verse 8, right? And we're going to see how their ministry was, what they did, who they went to, where they went, and then how they perished. Let's see, backstage. See that? Satan tried to take over immediately.
All right.
But we out here, man. Read that again, Job 8 and 8. For I inquire, I pray thee of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. So we're going into the history, linking up the history with the Bible, making it irrefutable. You can't refute history. It happened. You want to say the Bible's about this, that, and the third, but when you put the history to it, it's concrete, it's fact now. It happened. These happened to our fathers. We're going to go into the history behind it, and Lord willing, that's going to prepare us for the mindset of the things to come. You got it, King, if you had precepts.
You brought out Deuteronomy 32 and 7 yet?
La.
We can bring that out. Salaki, I was saying though, that was most definitely saying. But this Deuteronomy 32 and verse 7. It says, remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy fathers, and he will shew thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. Right, so the Most High said, remember the days of old. The days of old consist of, like how the brother essentially was going into, not just, 20 years ago or asking your physical father what you do, but it's really going into years and years back before this generation, before the last generation, and ultimately going into what people would say biblical times or ancient times. You search out your generations and your genealogy and who you descend from, your family, and you get the understanding of who you are. That's the foundation. Even a worldly proverb, they say, if you don't know where you come from, you'll never know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And it's truth, it's important to eat the whole roll, as we would say. It's good to understand the milk. It's good to understand the bread. But to have that just balance, you want to make sure that you cover all aspects as possible to searching out and seeking the truth. The truth is not just fringes, hair wrap, dresses, beard. The truth get deep. It's called the truth for a reason. It's called the truth for a reason. So within it, you want to make sure that you search out as much as possible. Esau literally spent his whole entire existence focusing on keeping it here for years and millenniums and generations. So the fact that the Most High has revealed it in the last days should make the truth that much more sacred, seeing how this is all really newly information to us. Let's go to Colossians 1 and 26. When I say new information, it's new compared to the other nations and how long they had their understanding for. See, the Chinese man, he always knew that he was Chinese. Arab man always knew he was Arab. East Indian, same thing. We're just now finding out that we're Israelites. What, about 30, 40 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
So that's millenniums of history that's been washed away that we're just now seeking out as a people. And knowing that it's that much more important for us to search and grasp and obtain it. So this Colossians 1 and 26. Even a mystery, which hath been hid from ages and from generations, but now is made manifest to us saints. So now these things are made manifest to us. We will be fools to not want to continually search it out and find out what's going on. One more, let's go to Proverbs 25 and 2, right? So if you a saint, if you an Israelite, if you on this live, if you're not on this live, or whatever the case may be, your job should be searching out the truth. It's so much to uncover, so much layers to peel back. You should always be peeling and always finding out something new every day. You got elders that's been in this truth for 30 plus years and still saying how they, find new things, and they never seen the scripture. Like they still find new things. And they've been in this knowledge for 30 years. How much more us? You know? So this Proverbs 25 and verse number 2. It says, it is the glory of God to conceal a thing. Yet the glory of the Most High, he conceals things. He hides things up. He shuts things up. It says, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. And that's what you got to do. You got to search these things out. Search the scriptures. Search out who you are. Ultimately, search out this truth. Find out who you come from. And you make your life about seeking the truth, seeking the Most High, seeking these scriptures, and being in His Word. Because as it states in John the 8th chapter 32, we shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So as long as you don't know the truth, your mind is always going to be bad. It's going to be concealed. You're not going to know what's going on. So the Most High therefore said it is the glory, or the honor rather, it's the honor of kings to search out matters. All right, you got it.
We go to Psalms 119, right? And 135. Because this is wisdom. It's like Psalms 119, 135. I mean, this is wisdom. Understanding what? The times to come, making and that goes back to having the Lord, his face to shine upon us. When you get the wisdom and knowledge of Yahweh Bashem Yahshua, the Lord turned his face unto you. When the Lord doesn't turn his face unto you and you're deprived of that wisdom, that's when you should worry. We want the Lord's face to shine upon us. This is Psalms chapter 119 and verse number 135. And it says, I'll start verse 434. Deliver me from the oppression of man, so I will keep thy precepts. And not knowing your history is the oppression of man. Not knowing who you are and letting your enemy create inventions of you as a human being. Our enemies invented our history. They gave you Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and February coming up. You know what that means? You about to get the same recycled characters that worked for Esau undercover, damn near. And it says, so I will keep thy precepts and make thy face to shine upon thy servant and teach me thy statutes. But when the Lord turn his face unto you, you start getting the milk, you start getting the honey, you start understanding, like we said earlier, the history, start understanding the prophecies, start declaring dark sentences and parables. No, you actually start to know what's going on. Right now, the Lord's face, he is hid from us as a nation, but he's slowly shining his face upon us because now we're getting the archaeology. You're getting the understanding about, you can just freely search these things up, and the Lord's uncovering these secrets in these last days. But let's hop into it. You want to pull it up first, or you want me to get in there? See if the brother back on still. Kyle, you hear me? I don't know if you heard me, King. But Kyle, now I get up in there.
It's like it. I was saying like that. I was on mute. I ain't know.
Oh, you got it? Okay, Kyle. Would you send me the emails?
Kyle, I sent it to you.
Okay, Kyle. Let me pull this up real quick. Yeah, man, we're gonna get into this, man. And we're gonna go into Lord willing, see what Thomas did, seeing what Peter did. You know what I'm saying? Let me pull this up real quick. Most I willing.
While you looking for that, I'm gonna bring a quick precept out too.
Uh,
It's I'm going to Matthew, the 20th chapter, and verse number 19. Right, Matthew 28 and verse 19. The true understanding. Right, on Matthew 28 and verse number 19, and it reads. So when you read Matthew the 28th chapter, I believe people call it the Great Commission, if I'm not mistaken. So you read the Gospels at the end of mostly the Gospels. You see how Yahushua sends out his disciples and commands them to go to all these cities to preach the word and to wake up Israel. And it's essentially we read it in the spirit. It's really deep because he's going up. He's ascending back to the heavens where he'll never see the apostles again. So as the righteous, mighty leader that he is, he gave the apostles who are the future, kings in the next life. We read Matthew the 19th chapter. He sent them out. He gave them strict commandments to go out and to teach in all nations. So this Matthew 28 and 19. It says, "Go therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world." So when we read that, we have to understand that outside of Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, it's more that happened. You read the book of Acts, it stems from the Gospels. All right. And that's why we always say the Bible's a historical book. Because not only do you read these acts in the Bible, but you even have what they would call church fathers or scholars that will substantiate these same claims that's being mentioned or presented within the Bible to let us know that these things actually took place. Why Jake going around being what's Jake? He like being a Pan-Africanist,
yeah.
Muslim,
You
Egyptology.
heard 5%er yesterday.
Yeah, 5% yesterday. While Jay going around claiming all these religions and not believing in the Bible, here it is. You got all these scholars that lived during these times saying that, oh, hold on, these things took place. So understand, we read this Bible, get it. We always say, got to get out your mind that it's a fairy tale and it's something that you just read your kids as you rocking them to sleep. Read about, Noah, he got swallowed by the big fish. Jonah swallowed by the big fish. Noah, he built a boat. It's more than just those things. Understand that these things took place and these things are to come in the future as well. But we can get into it.
And pull yours up. This one.
Yep. So I'm actually wanted to start at the highlight it. Actually, let's read the title first. So this is St. Thomas, also known as Doubting Thomas, preaches the gospel in India. So one thing that we have to understand is that, like I said earlier, you read Matthew 28 and 19, the apostles, they went abroad teaching and spreading the word of the Most High, right? Now, I want to read the first paragraph and then I'm going to jump down. All right, it says, St. Thomas is commonly known in the church as doubting, and he really doubted, one time, Now all of a sudden he's doubting Thomas. That's all he's known for in Christianity, just doubting. See, when you realize in Christianity, they always point out the downside of our fathers. They always you can't mention to a Christian the righteousness of David without them saying, then he committed adultery.
It's a negative religion.
Yeah. They the main religion that say you don't judge, you gotta forgive, but they judge and remember that one wicked thing each man did. Yeah, I know Job went through hell, but wasn't he complaining though? They find anything. Now Thomas doubting one time. All of a sudden his name is Doubting Thomas. So what is this? They say David, he was off. He's not perfect. We always had a conversation about that. Every time a Christian come up, we say, hold on now. Then the Bible say King David was perfect. Yeah, but then he do. All right, we know he did that, but what the Bible say? So they always want to point out. I just have to say that.
All he had was a slingshot, and he's forever a little boy. That's it.
Yeah, Christ. They still call Yahushua baby Jesus as if he didn't have the rest of his life growing up as a man. So these people don't know, they don't know what's going on, right? But Thomas, it says, let me tell you the rest of the so-called story, right? All the Gospels record a final great commission of Yahushua to his disciples. In John's Gospel, he recorded those powerful words of Yahushua to his disciples. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you. However, John records that Thomas was not with them that evening, right? John 20, I believe that's quoted in John 20 and 24. It says, when Thomas heard about the appearance, he famously declared that unless, it's like he famously, right, declared that unless he saw nail, right, sacred hands of Yahushua and put his finger in them and into his sword pierced side, he would not believe. Because of this declaration, Thomas has become known as Doubting Thomas. It seems that the church sometimes forgotten that 1 week later, when Thomas himself saw the risen Lord, he made the most powerful declaration of the deity of Hamashiach found in any of the Gospels. My Lord, my Lord. Yeah, they forget that because they're off. Now let's scroll down, right? Let's scroll down to that part right there, right? It says, now Thomas eventually traveled by ship to India. I want to read the paragraph above it actually, right? And then I'm gonna get a quick precept. It says, yeah, right there. It says, although there are important traditions surrounding the ministry of the apostles, we will focus this highlight on St. Thomas' mission to India. So if you didn't know, after Christ, so-called died, he ascended and resurrected back to the third heavens. Again, all the apostles, they had the respective regions that we went to. Some stayed in Jerusalem, some, left Jerusalem, some traveled extremely far east. Thomas, he was one of the 12 that traveled extremely far east, all right, to India. Now you may say, okay, well, why did he go to India? Right? Well, believe it or not, it's Israel and India. All right, we actually did a video on that. After this, if you can pull up the what they call the Gobi map. It shows that it's Jews scattered throughout India, Israelites scattered throughout India. So it says, I'm gonna read that again. We will focus on a highlight on St. Thomas' mission to India, which is one of the oldest and strongest traditions of church history. The earliest record of the mission of Thomas to India is found in an early manuscript known as the Acts of Thomas. Now that's an actual manuscript, but it's also known as a pseudepigrapha writing, meaning false writings. It's not within the Bible. Therefore, you don't see brothers bringing out the Acts of Thomas. But scholars do say it could be some historical, factual evidence within it. Nonetheless, the reason why we know this is because, again, you also have other scholars that lived back during the day, men like Clement, men like Eusebius, Irenaeus, Tertullian, men that lived during these times, and they substantiate facts such as this, that Thomas actually went to India. So it is more than one witness. It says which dates around the turn of the 3rd century. This manuscript records a dramatic moment where the 11 apostles all gathered in Jerusalem and divided the known world into various regions. Right? It says that they then cast lots to determine where each of them would go. India fell to Thomas. According to the account, Thomas objected, saying that because of his weakness of flesh, he could not travel. However, Hamashiach appeared to him in a vision and promised to be with him. So these things happen. They came together and they said, hey, look, the Lord said we got to do this work. Let's do this work. It said they divided the whole world up, the whole known world. And that lets you know how much of a mindset they really had to do this work. It's only, 12 of them? They said, we're going to just do us, so we're going to make sure we get this word everywhere throughout the 4 corners. So before we read that next paragraph, you can pull up a map real quick, the Gobi map of India.
How you spell that?
Godbey, right? G-O-D.
Or G-O-D-B-Y.
Yeah, G-O-D-B-Y. You just put Gabi map of India.
Oh yeah, kind of this.
Yeah, that's the African one. Type in by Alan. Yeah, that should be that should. No, not that one. Yeah. They don't have it up there, you know. I believe I sent it to you a while back. If you don't get it, I could probably
Oh, yeah, it's gonna take me a lot to see look for that.
okay.
Yeah. O-D, this is G-O-D-B-Y. G-O-D-B-E.
Yeah, that's it right there. That's how you spell it. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna send you this real quick.
Okay, con.
So the point of time is he went there though. He went there. He had to do what he had to do.
Con, let me get a precept real quick.
Con.
What the book of Acts chapter 16. What the book of Acts chapter 16. And the word apostle means to be sent out. You had the disciples, obviously, that wrote, the Lord, and then you had many disciples of the Lord, actually. And then you had a lot of the apostles, that were sent out to do this work as well, just like, Thomas, just like Peter, Matthew. They went out and they traveled to these different places, declaring Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. And if you consider yourself to be a disciple of the Lord or an apostle, you got to travel. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You still got some jakes that never been passed downtown. That never been outside the limits of their city. Got to travel in this thing, man, especially for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Right? It's the book of Acts chapter 16. And I'll start at verse number 6. I'll start verse 5. And so were the churches established in the faith and increased in number daily. Now, when they had gone throughout Phrygia, right, in the region of Galatia, right, and it says, and were forbidden of the Holy Spirit to preach the word in Asia. So they were traveling. Phrygia went to Galatia, right, just Asia Minor. And it says, and they were come to Mysia, and they essayed to go into Bithynia. They wanted to go to Bithynia, but the Spirit suffered them not. But what? And they passing by Mysia came down to Troas. They in another city. And a vision appeared to Paul in the night. There stood a man of Macedonia, right, over there in Greece. And it says, and prayed him, saying, come over into Macedonia and help us. So they in Troas, just got done going through Phrygia in the region of Galatia. Right, were forbidden the Holy Spirit to go into Asia, really wanted to go into Bithynia, but didn't. So they went past Mycenae, went into Troas, and the Lord sent this a vision of a man say, come into Macedonia to help us. That's a lot of traveling. That's a lot of moving around. Right, and it says in a vision, read on, and verse 10, and after he had seen the vision, immediately, he didn't say I gotta see if I can, about 2 months, after I get this check. Because I'm a tent maker, I still got some clients lined up back at Jerusalem. Get this money real quick. I'm gonna plan out certain things. No, it said immediately. Oops. We endeavored to go into Macedonia, assuring gathering that the Lord had called us for to preach the gospel unto them. Therefore, loosing from Troas, we came with a straight course to Samothracia, and the next day to Neapolis, and from thence to Philippi, which is the chief city of that part of Macedonia, and a colony, and we were in that city abiding certain days. So they were moving around, man. Right? They were moving around, just as our forefathers, as such, we should be doing as well. You sent it to me, God?
Con, I sent it. I'm gonna keep reading on it though, real quick.
Okay, Con. Got it.
Right. So it reads. It says Thomas eventually traveled by ship to India along one of the well-established trade routes to India. Arriving, all this is approximate, right? Arriving at 52 AD. He preached the gospel in various locations in India and finally suffered martyrdom in India and was burned near modern-day Chechnya. And this lesson is not only about where they, traveled to, but also recognizing that all the apostles, every single apostle except John, was murdered. All right, they were made martyrs for the Lord's sake. They died for the Lord. Imagine you traveling to a place you never went to and then dying there for the Lord. That lets you know how much faith our fathers had, the apostles had. To where when they understood, if I go to this spot, I can never come back. And that shows how much love that they have for the Most High and for each other. Because again, when they had that council and they said we got to go to these respective locations, a lot of them understood that that was the last time that they was gonna see their next brother. You read that in the writings. You read how when Paul traveled to when Paul was getting ready to travel to Jerusalem, he understood, hey, look, if I go to Jerusalem, I might not come back. Nero during that time, Nero, he was persecuting Israelites on a high level. All the emperors, Claudius, they was oppressing what they would say so-called Christians. Understand that that's us Israelites. If you believe in Yahushua, you was teaching and preaching Yahushua back then during those times, and you was getting out of there. And that's not only in Jerusalem, not only in the Roman Empire, but throughout the four corners of the earth. So this lesson is to show how it's more to the apostles, more to Thomas than him doubting, but one he became a martyr, and all the rest of the apostles they became martyrs. So let's show that real quick. You can go to the map. I believe the next link I sent you actually had the map, by the way.
Okay, this one. Let's see.
Yeah, that was one. That was one. I had to take a. As a matter of fact, yeah. Can you scroll down the page? Because I took a screenshot of it. Scroll down to page 321.
Oh, the Lost Tribes.
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay. Lord willing. The page number is going to be on here, or is it going to be at the side?
It's going to be on the it just should be right there. It's on both actually.
Both. All right. Let me see.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Should be loading. Most I willing. Okay.
Yeah, so some people, let's say, Thomas, he went, you see when he taught the heathen, and he went to go save and proselytize to Elam and the East Indians. The East Indians have never believed in Yahushua, right? I've never seen any East Indian keep the commandments of God, repent, tell his fathers and his whole people that we're sinners above all, and we need to come back to keeping the laws of the Jews, right? And they put on fringes. And they just, kept the law. You never seen it. What shows and indicates how, as they traveled to Israel that was within those provinces, so within those communities. Even nowadays they got a term called what they would say so-called ghettos, right? Which is a place where Israel always resort. So look, when you get a chance, it's on page 321.
I just put off my email because it wasn't loading.
Okay. It was I had a page out of there, but
okay, so
let's read it from right here. Yeah, so when you read this map at the top right corner, it says ancient trade routes from cities to the Medes. Right, you read at the bottom left corner, it says from Palestine to China to India. Now we read this book, it's written about the Israelites that were scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. You had this Alan Godby, who wrote it in the 1930s, who studied the travels and the migrational periods in the regions where Israelites stood there throughout, history. And in his books, so certain pages, he had documented landmarks to show where they resided in as a people. As we just read, Thomas, he went to India. And if you see on here, India, all the red, not just India, but all the red spots is where Israelites set up what they would call colonies, right? So you see among this coast around here where India is, this so-called Malabar coast, I believe, Cochin coast, Right, all that is on this coast, as you see on India, the center of your screen. So, understand that when he went there, he wasn't teaching heathens. There's no account of an Elamite receiving salvation. There's no account of Moabites, Ammonites, Hagarenes. There's no account of no other nation receiving or grasping the understanding and conception of Christ coming for them. Right now, like I said, on that link I sent you, it was someone to read out of there real quick.
Okay, Con. I'm just gonna go back to it.
You might have to press. Oh, there you go. That's it right there, right?
Yeah, well, it says 309. So you want me to go to 321 on here?
Oh yeah, Khan Salaki, kid you.
Okay. Scroll down. I'm gonna load real quick.
Man, you have to wait a few seconds and then they'll give you like a skip ad option. I know I had to do that when I was kind of going through it.
Yeah, it's slowing down the computer. They didn't see that. I hear it running. Hold on me.
Let's see.
Here we go. It's the map.
Okay, Khan. You go to maybe the next one, page 321.
See. 317. 19, 20, 321 right here. Yeah, this should be it.
Okay, Khan.
This 320. Is that on load? See that 320 loaded, but this ain't want to load. Oh, here we go.
Okay, here we go. Praise the Most High. All right. So I'm gonna read the first I'm gonna read as you see. And I'll get inside the same book as you can see to the left. Now if you want this book, it's some bucks. So stick with the PDF. I've seen a copy. It says $6,900, something like that.
That's a car.
Yeah.
They say you want to buy this book, you gotta have a down payment of a car.
Hey, the cheapest one was like 3,000. So that's same.
You said how you skip that?
Yeah, you can skip it after the so-called 10 seconds, but that's same. But if you read the headings of these chapters, you understand that. And by the way, Esau wrote these books. You understand that everybody know the truth, but us, right? Is it given the option to skip it?
Oh, let me see. Continue for free.
No, after the 10 seconds, it's supposed to say skip ad, but that's same.
Nah, they say yeah, y'all gonna have to see. Oh, here we go. My computer's slow. You still see me?
Come.
Am I frozen?
No, you good.
Yeah,
it's just the screen is just moving slow.
Yeah, it's moving crazy.
Right, that's okay though. I'm gonna get a quick precept until it pop up. All right, let's go to Matthew the 10th chapter. I meant to bring this out earlier, right? Matthew the 10th chapter. This see that is Matthew chapter 10 and I'm gonna read verse 2. It says, now the names of the 12 apostles are these: the first, Simon, who was called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the publican, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebanaeus, whose surname was Theudaeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. Right, it says, these 12 Yahushua sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans, and to ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So understand, when apostles got sent out, no matter what region they were in, they were only sent to Israel within those regions. With whatever was a country, a continent, wherever they went, they was only teaching to the lost tribes of the children of Israel. You still got the page.
Yeah, I just reloaded it. I had to open it back up.
Okay,
So yeah, it's loading right now.
Okay,
Okay, make sure that's a con. Reload this page.
All right, let me get
Right.
another quick precept real quick. Even with Paul, because through this quick series, we're gonna touch on multitude of the apostles, throughout the next few weeks or so, just going through each apostle, understanding what their job was, what they did, where they traveled to, their life and their martyrdom. Again, being a brother, I believe a brother did a video on that a while back. Going into the life of the apostles, how the life of an apostle is nothing light. It's not easy. It's not It's not something that the average man could take. Again, like how the brother said, apostle is one that's sent out. We read Matthew the 10th chapter, in the beginning, he called them disciples, which means students. On the latter part, he called them disciples, which means to be sent out. So they even went from being students to getting thrown in that fire. And being an apostle, you don't choose to be an apostle. You don't choose off your own accord to be an apostle. The Lord chooses you to be an apostle, right? And whether you like it or not, your job is to go out and to teach the word. You read that with Jeremiah, you know. Hey, Jeremiah, he has so much on his plate. He said, "Hey, look, Lord, I don't want to do this anymore." He tried to turn back, but the Lord even turned his fire up even more. So we read these accounts, we go over these, understand that it's a lot that comes with it, and it's a lot more things that they did that's not even written of. You even read that in Second Maccabees. But before it's time out, let me kind of read this real quick. You can zoom in
Tom.
a little bit if possible. If not, I could probably just read it on my end probably.
Yeah, you probably gonna have to read it on your end because my computer going slow. Can't really do
Okay,
so.
let me read it on my end real quick. I'm gonna read the top part. First it says, right, the black Jews of India. So like how we always say, we don't write these things, you know. That's what Esau said. And I went back out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just read it on my end for edification's sake. All
Huh.
right. So it said, the so-called black Jews of India.
Oh, here we go. 321.
I'm gonna read the second marginal paragraph. It says it's up on your end because I got to put up on mine, so I won't be able to see your end.
Yeah, see that gave me another ad. Yeah, you got to just pull it up on your end.
Okay, it says now there are two important facts to consider: to take the Israelite to India. So scholars know that Israelites dwelt in India, right? Now therefore are important facts to consider that take the Israelites to India. The first is the regular use of North India, um, it's like of North India and the Jewish Feast of Tabernacles. So if you didn't know about the certain Germanic tribes during the time of Rome, some of those tribes were what they would say Northern Kingdom Israelites. Not all, some, mainly the Scythians. And they would say that, the Scythians, they traveled a lot, Northern Kingdom that left Assyria. A portion went to India and went farther to the east. And they're saying that these are the same people that you read about that got exiled to those lands. Reading on it says, and in the incorruption into the Hebrew text of Leviticus, somewhere between the time of Persia and the scribe Ezra, and the time when Alexander Janus was pleaded with Citrons. So even during the time of the Maccabees, they recorded Israelites in India. It says the ahad or pomegranate tree of Zechariah chapter 12 and 11, so prominent in the decorations and priest robes in Solomon's temple, is as hadass or myrtles and Nehemiah 8:15. So what it's saying is, because I'm not going to read the whole thing, what it's saying is that these people over there in India, they have the same traits and same attributes that the people of the book can. We read Ezra, we read Nehemiah, we read about Alexander Janus. They saying that these are the same people that migrated there. It says, although it says it is generally credited to the foothills of northern India, though some think it came from Cochin China to India. The immediate points of the Aramaic-speaking Jews of North India must have adopted this Indian fruit and its lore and made authoritative for Western Jews. So again, in a nutshell, Edomites know these people know that Israelites were scattered over there. That's why on the topic of the heading, before the screen went out, it said the black Jews of India. Made sure to add that word black in there. The black Jews of India. How come you don't see your church, the black pastor never going into this? In the history books, they never touch on this in schools. But you do have books out there that substantiate that you have our people inhabiting and dwelling in these areas. So when we read about Thomas traveling and going to these different areas, as we just pulled up on the map, understand he was going there to teach Israel that was scattered throughout the four corners of the earth.
Now,
That's a curse, dude. You said something?
I was gonna say, if Thomas was an Edomite, right, and we know East Indians to be generally dark people, right? Him going into India was a lot of Hinduism, a lot of pagan things going on. Don't you think he would stick out like a sore thumb?
Right.
He going into India. Now it's hot as hell in India. It's hot as hell in India. Right? There wasn't a lot of SPF 3000. It wasn't and Tom, he was throwing on a baby lotion, make sure before he went out into 100-degree weathers. Thomas, I mean, there was no way that he was a full-blown red man, Edomite, out there in India preaching about Yahweh Shai.
Right. So there's people that don't even wear deodorant.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna read that latter part at the bottom, that last sentence where it say Jews of India, right? Again, mind you, every time you see the word Jew right here, it's talking about Negroes. Because as you see the title said, the black Jews. So you Negroes, again, you're not black, y'all will be Israelites. So the Jew, oh man, that's hard to see on the screen. Yeah, doing at the bottom, that last sentence where it say Jews of India.
Jews of
It
India.
says, yeah.
Oh, right here.
Yep. It says Jews of India must have adopted it on their own initiative, with the Sanskrit name that appears also in the Persians. So what it's saying is when these Jews got scattered to India, they had they partially kept the same customs that they kept during the time when they were in the land. That's why you read this whole page right here mentions some similarities when we read Zechariah 12 and 11, Leviticus the 23rd chapter, how they kept tabernacles in. You read how they had certain things we read in Nehemiah. They had a lot of you could say similarities, for lack of better terms, But what they also did was they adopted customs and cultures of the people that was also there. So they were in idolatry. So they mingled the truth with paganism, same way how Jake do now. He got a little bit of the truth, but he got to add Christianity in there. He got to add, his damn the Ethiopian Bible. That he was Ethiopian. He got to always add some folly in there. So our fathers did that back then too. But the point is that Thomas, he went there to convert these people and teach them Yahweh Shai, because they're the lost tribes that were scattered abroad. Can we get James 1:1 real quick?
Can I got precept after you, and then
Come.
Real quick.
And it shouldn't be a surprise that it was Israelites in India, because you read that in Ezra the first chapter.
When you go into it, there's an Israelites as far as even so-called China.
Yeah, that's what it said in there. It said you had Jews and culture in China, and they had the same similarities.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So this James 1:1. It says, James, the servant of God and of the Lord Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. That's the diaspora. All right. And we read that book too, it has a lot, it got a lot of more heat in there, It's so much in there that Saint don't even want you to get in there. Give you ads every 10 seconds. Can't read that page in 10 seconds, but it's give you an ad in 10 seconds. And the original copy is worth $7,000. So that lets you know how much Esau is working. That's what we brought out earlier. That's why you got to search these things out. Esau is working to get these things here from you, but it's of the glory of kings to search out a matter. All right, you got it. All right.
So I'm going to go to 2 Kings chapter 14 and verse 8. Right. And that's why even when we do this ministry now, we encourage brothers to, as we said earlier, to travel. It's my goal to actually teach the word of the Lord outside the United States, man. I want to teach the word of the Lord in Great Britain, go to, Jamaica, go to, hey, go wherever the Lord decides to take me, most high willing, outside this damn Babylon, the great, this United States, then guess what? That would be an honor to do the work of the Lord like that. Right. And it says, then Amaziah sent messengers to Joash, the son of Joahaz, son of Jehu, king of Israel, saying, come, let us look one another in the face. And that's what it's about. Looking your people in the face and declaring, making your head hard against their forehead, man, and rebuking and correcting our people in honesty, sincerity, and love. There's one thing, we got AI, you got the internet, you can kind of pretend to be somebody behind the screen, and you got social media where you can kind of create your image and create who you want to be. But hey, when you out there in the elements and the highways and byways, guess what, man? There is no hiding.
All right.
You out there, you're being seen, targeted, right? People come up with diverse questions with different opposing views, and you got to chop all these things down, man. Destroying high fortresses. You looking with them in the face. Right? We're being bold for Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, man. And that's what the Lord had authority. The Lord was on foot traveling. Right? Let's go to the book of Mark, chapter 1, verse 23, and then we can get back into it. Mark, the first chapter.
That's all I had on that one, too, so you can go into it.
Mark 1 and 22, and they were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one that had authority and not as one of the scribes. So when you have authority, man, you have confidence, hey, man, we out there, and it is what it is. And that's how the spirit of our fathers were. That's the spirit that we should be in now. Now, let me pull this up real quick.
So I had a quick point, too.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah, I was going to say, and Thomas, and there's no account of him going out there with a camp. He was by himself doing that. He never said he had. Now, he could have had men with him, but, don't say that. So most likely he was by himself. You got to know how bold you got to be. Travel by yourself. Do the work by yourself, and you get, killed out there by yourself. But the Lord seen that. And now you numbered amongst the righteous. That take a lot of boldness in the spirit. So all this doubt, he's known as the doubting Thomas. Why is he still known as doubting Thomas when he's known for being a martyr for the Lord? He didn't doubt when it counted. He didn't denounce the Lord when it counted. So I just wanted to say that right there. I can't stand that doubting Thomas, like he didn't give up his life for the Lord.
Right. Discrediting what he did.
Yeah.
But
Christians, man.
They know he a Jew, man. They know he a, what I'm saying? He's not an Edomite doing this. He's a real Jew doing
right.
it. So you can't give him too much credit, right? But this says Thomas' later life, right? Pulling this up real quick, going into his death, right? And it says Christian tradition and history tells us that Thomas traveled outside of the Roman Empire as a missionary, possibly as far away as India, to preach the gospel, which is yet another indication of Thomas's boldness, right? It says Thomas's boldness, right? But he's doubting Thomas, right? He may have reached Muziris, India, where he baptized several believers and was possibly the first to bring the gospel to the Far East, right? He was bringing people, he was adding people to the church daily out there in India. And it says this might explain why he's considered the patron saint of India. His name in the Indian language, Thoma, remains quite popular to this day in India. So, right, yeah. So those East Indians, you say Thoma, they know exactly who you're talking about. They may get shocked. What you know about Thoma? First of all, why are you speaking my language? Right? But they know about him, right? Because he was out there, right, doing the work. And it says not very much is known about the method of Thomas's execution, but that may be due to the fact that he was a missionary in faraway India. Church tradition says that while he was establishing a church there, he was stabbed with a spear, dying from the wound. The irony here is that Yahushua told Thomas to touch his side and his hands where the wounds from the cross were still visible. There are some few historical facts that are available beyond this account that we cannot add much more to this account and do so with absolute certainty, right? But we know he passed. Hey, he passed away for the Lord. He died for the Lord, right? May have been a spear, however it was, gave up his life, right? And it says Thomas. The conclusion: Thomas got a bum rap. He was no more doubting than the rest of the disciples, and the only reason he doubted and the others didn't was because they had seen the resurrected Yahushua Mashiach. When the woman came back from the empty tomb and after seeing the risen Hamashiach, the disciples also doubted. To me, there is no doubt that Thomas was a strong believer. See, hey, they going hard for Thomas, man. All praise to the Most High, right? And it says, "in a powerful missionary used by God to the glory of God." So yeah, although he may not have been, widely known, but Thomas, hey, a lot of the other disciples, the apostles, they went hard for Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. And he gave up his life for the ministry. And that's the Lord told us to do that. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 3. That's something that we have to understand. Being a disciple of the Lord, an apostle of the Lord, right? Doing this work, your life may have to be given up for Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, doing this work. That may be your lot. And you gotta love that. You gotta love that lot. This Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 3, and verse 1. But the souls of the righteous are in the hand of God, and there shall no torment touch them. In the sight of the unwise, they seem to die, and the departure is taken for misery. And they're going from us to be utter destruction, right? You may, went out this way, you may have went out in a brutal way in this fashion. You say, man, that was a horrible thing that happened to him. But what? But they are in peace. They are actually in peace. They actually with Yahweh, the Most High, waiting for their spiritual body. Their natural body corroded. Now they're waiting for their spiritual body. Right? And it says, for though they have been punished in the sight of men, yet is their hope full of immortality. And Lord willing, that's the hope for all the saints that's in this truth that gave up the ghost. And we know elders that gave up the ghost through the Spirit, man. And Most High willing, they are in peace. But it's going to get to the time where these deaths are going to get more brutal. Right? It's going to get more extreme. We know what's in the mind of the so-called white man. Go to the previous chapter. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2. And I'll start at verse number 9. And it says, let none of us go without his part of voluptuousness. So, as we say, this is inside the mind of the wicked towards the righteous. This is inside the mind of the so-called white man and these nations when it comes to how they live on the earth and when it comes to us also being on the earth. It says, let us leave tokens of our joyfulness in every place, for this is our portion and our lot is this. See, their lot is to just use this earth for gain. They have no real purpose on the earth other than desiring carnal things. That's their lot. Right? And it says, let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of this head of the age, because they don't care. Right? That's not, they operate on this earth. But what? Let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. Therefore, let us lie in wait for the righteous, because he is not for our turn, right? We're not for their cause. And he is clean, contrary to our doings. He upbraideth us with our offending the law and objected to our infamy, the transgressions of our education. He professes to have the knowledge of the Most High, and he calleth himself the child of the Lord. And that's what we do. We call ourselves the child of the Lord. We say y'all offend the laws. That's what John the Baptist was doing. Right, Matthew the 14th chapter. Then we're rebuking Herod, man, for taking his brother's wife. We're clean contrary to their doings. We say what they're doing is wrong. Right, verse 14, he was made to reprove our thoughts. He is grievous unto us, even to behold. For his life is not like other men's. His ways are of another fashion. Right, let's jump down. Let's jump down to verse 17. Let us see if his words be true, and let us prove what shall happen in the end of him. Meaning they're going to start torturing us, trying to kill us. Right? As a madman sparing none. For if the just man be the son of God, he will help him and deliver him from the hand of his enemies. Let us examine him with despitefulness and torture, that we may know his meekness and prove his patience. And that's what's going to happen. And Thomas was, like I said, that doubt in Thomas is crazy, because he gave up his life for Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Now, I'm going to touch on this, King. I'm going to hop into Peter real quick.
Come on.
Right? Who was Peter in the scriptures? The rock of the church. Get this about Peter real quick. Understand who Peter is. If you don't know who Peter is, hey man, you gotta get in the Gospels. Right? He is the rock of the church. Let's go to Matthew chapter 16. This is Matthew chapter 16, and I'll start at verse 17. And Yahushua answered and said unto him, Blessed art thou, Simon Bar Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say unto thee, thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. So Peter, the rock of the church, the Lord gave him direct the keys, right, to of heaven, and to bind those in heaven and loose those in heaven as well. And we're going to read about that. Right, and it says, and I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Then charged he his disciples that they should tell no man that he was Yahushua the Hamashiach. So Peter had a heavy responsibility after a Lord ascended into heaven. He had the authority over the church, and we're going to read about him and his ministry. Right, so this is Simon. Right, who is Peter in the Bible? I'm gonna read this first one real quick. Right, it says Simon Peter, also known as Cephas, was one of his first followers of Yahushua Mashiach. He was an outspoken and ardent disciple, one of Yahushua's close friends, an apostle, and a pillar of the church. And we always go into it. What does a pillar do? A pillar upholds buildings. You can't have a building without a pillar. You look in your house, there's pillars, man. There's things upholding your house. Peter upheld the church, right? They say he was enthusiastic, strong-willed, impulsive, and at times brash. Yeah, he pulled out a sword, man, and chopped off the high priest's ear. Didn't give a damn. He was riding for the Lord. He was bold. He wasn't just going to speak about Yahushua in front of him like that, man. Right? And it says, but for all his strengths, Peter also has several failings in his life. Still, the Lord who chose him continued to mold him into exactly who he intended to Peter to be, right? And that's the mercies of the Lord. All right, let's get into it. Let's see if I can jump down a little bit. Let's start right here. All right, and it says, for the next 3 years, Peter lived as a disciple of the Lord Yahushua, being a natural-born leader. Right, he became the de facto spokesman of the 12. Right, got some scriptures referenced, all praises. More significantly, it was Peter who first confessed Yahushua as the Mashiach, the Son of the living God, a truth which Yahushua said was divinely revealed to Peter. Right, which we just read. Right, Peter was the part of the inner circle of Yahushua's disciples. Right, so you even had an inner circle, as we always say. You had more than 12 disciples, but you had the main 12, and within the 12, you had the top 3: Peter, James, and John. The Lord wasn't committed to everybody. All right, I can get that precept real quick. Let me get this real quick, King. If you got anything, you can bring it out as well. With the book of John, the 2nd chapter. The Lord wasn't committed to everybody. This is John chapter 2, and I'll start at verse number 23. Now, when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover in the feast day, many believed in his name when they saw the miracles which he did. So many people believed in Yahushua once they saw the miracles, but what? But Yahushua did not commit himself unto them, because he knew all men, and needed not that any should testify of man, for he knew what was in man. Nobody had to break down what was in man. Yahushua created man. He knew what was in man. So he wasn't around a lot of people. Yahushua was really around Peter, James, and John. So that says a lot about who Peter was. If the Lord decided to be around him and not to be around a lot of men. Right?
I actually want to get that quick account of Matthew. I believe it's the 9th chapter.
All
right. It's like in Matthew the 16th chapter. Matthew 16, maybe 9. Right, this Matthew. I'm gonna start at verse 13. Right, Matthew 16 and 13. Now, Yahushua, he always proved the apostles as well, the 12 disciples. You know, he essentially tried them. Now, a lot of times when he tried them, they didn't know that he was trying them, but he would ask them certain questions here and there just to see where their mind was at, where their knowledge was at, and that's how Peter became, the rock. When we read about the zeal of Peter, you understand that Peter's zeal was above the other apostles. Every time he asked questions, notice how Peter was the first one to always answer. Notice when you had Mary and Martha when they came from the tomb, you had Peter and John, they was running. And John, he beat Peter to the tomb. But Peter, what happened? He went inside first. So a lot of these situations, a lot of these accounts, you see that Peter's zeal was just a little bit more amplified than, everyone else's. Now, that's not to discredit them, because again, they died for the Lord. Their faith was, above measures. But we see that Peter, the Lord chose Peter to be that rock for a reason. So there's Matthew 16, and I'm going to start at verse number 13. It says, when Yahushua came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, whom do men say that I am? And they said, some say that thou art John the Baptist, and some Elias, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. He saith unto them, but whom say ye that I am? So he asking them, because they understand regeneration. Who do y'all say that I am back on the earth? Right? Am I one of the prophets? Am I one of the mighty men? And for people to say Jeremiah and just be throwing out names, that lets you know that a lot of men was not learned, right? Because that means that they didn't study the prophecies concerning the Lord and his coming. That's why the Lord had to put forth these questions to try not only other individuals but the apostles as well. Everybody was always getting put on trial if he was around the Lord. Verse 16, it says, and Simon Peter, he the first one to answer. The first one. He didn't wait till other brothers got in there and do process of elimination. He the first one that got in there. So you got some brothers, they'll wait until you give your answer. Then they'll say, okay, no, that's not it. That's not it.
All right.
He's eating off your plate so you guess up all the names.
Yeah.
Hey, Peter, he said, look, man, let me get in there real quick. It says, and Simon Peter answered and said, thou art Hamashiach, the Son of the living God. And Yahushua answered and said unto him, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee, thou art Peter, and upon this rock will I build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against thee. So his name is Cephas. All right, his original name is Simon. Yahushua said, look, I'm going to call you Peter, right, which means rock. And upon you, I'm going to build the foundation, because a rock is a foundation. He said, upon you, I'm going to build the church. So when you see all these acts in the New Testament, you see Peter holding all these councils. You read Acts 15, Acts 21. Understand that the Lord gave him that authority. And all the 12 that were under him, they had that authority because it was set amongst Peter, But you got it.
Tom, I'm going to go back to this real quick. Well, that's right. And it says, Peter was part of the inner circle of Yahushua's disciples, along with James and John. Only those three were present when Yahushua raised the daughter of Jairus, Mark the 5th chapter, and when Yahushua was transfigured on a mountain, Matthew 17. Right. So the Lord, showed Peter, James, and John certain things that not everybody got to see. He was on the inner circle, right? He was the closest to the Lord, essentially. Right? I mean, I want to be that close to the Lord, most high willing, man. Right? They were closest to the Lord. And this is, and Peter and John were given the special task of preparing the final Passover meal. In several instances, Peter showed himself to be impetuous to the point of rashness. For example, if it was Peter who left the boat to walk on the water to Yahushua. Yeah, Peter, he hopped off the boat, man, and started walking to the Lord, Matthew chapter 14. And you can see a lot of examples through Peter. The mercy of the Lord, through Peter, right? When Peter doubted 3 times, right? When he got off the boat and started to sink because he doubted, right? He took his eyes off Yahweh. And that whole account is spiritual in itself. But you can learn a lot of things through Peter in his walk in his with the Lord in his life. Right. And it says it was Peter who took Yahushua aside to rebuke him for speaking of his death. Right. Satan got on Peter multiple times. And it was swiftly corrected by the Lord. It was Peter who suggested erecting 3 tabernacles to honor Moses, Elijah, and Yahushua, and fell to the ground in fearful silence at God's glory. It was Peter who drew his sword and attacked the servant of the high priest. It was immediately told to sheath his weapon. Verse 11. It was Peter who boasted that he would never forsake the Lord, even if everyone else did, and later denied the Lord 3 times that he even knew the Lord. Right. So you can learn a lot of lessons through Peter in his life, in his discipleship. Hey, Peter was rebuked by Paul. Right. And it shows humility. Let me get this real quick in the book of Galatians, the 2nd chapter. I believe that's Galatians chapter 2. All right. You get this Galatians chapter 2. Galatians chapter 2 and verse 9. So you can learn a lot of things through Cephas, right? Which in the Greek means stone, right? Through Peter, right? Learn about the Lord's mercies. And hey, we can relate to Peter in a lot of different ways, man. Hey, it says, and when James, Cephas, and John, right, the top 3, who seemed to be pillars, perceived that grace was given unto me, they gave to me and Barnabas the right hands of fellowship, right? Kind of granted them, fellowship to do this work, that we should go into the heathen and they unto the circumcision, right? So Peter, James, and John, their ministry was more so in Jerusalem. They went into the Jews that was of the circumcision that didn't believe in Yahushua, because even back then, Yahushua was still a new concept. They had to spread his name abroad. And Barnabas and Paul, they went to the heathen, meaning they went to the Israelites. And we can prove real quick, I got to get it, the Israelites being called heathen, lest the Jake gets overthrown on this live. All right, clips the video. All right, we got to show this. The 2nd Ezra, chapter 2. And I'll start at verse. Let's see what we want. This 2nd Ezra chapter 2, and I'll start at verse number 33. And I, Ezra, received the charge of the Lord upon the Mount Horeb that I should go unto Israel. But when I came unto them, they set me at naught and despised the commandment of the Lord. And I said unto you, O ye heathen, so that heathen is Israel, right? And it says that here, and understand, look for your shepherd, and he shall give you everlasting rest, for he is nigh at hand. That shall come in the end of the world. So when we go back to it, in Galatians chapter 2, they went to Israel. But let's see what Paul did to Peter. Let's see the point. It's Galatians chapter 2 and verse number 10. Only they would that we should remember the poor, the same which I also was for to do. But when Peter was come to Antioch, I withstood him to the face, because he was to be blamed. And Peter took correction. Paul got in Peter's face in front of everybody, man. Right? Humility. So when we're reading about the life of the apostles and the disciples, there's a lot to relate to them in ways and things that, we go through now, they went through. That's why reading is fundamental. That's why understanding the history is fundamental. Right? And understanding what they went through, we're going to have to go through these things even more. So let's get back into the article. Let me jump down real quick. Right here, right? And it says, even as an apostle, Peter experienced some growing pains. At first, he had resisted taking gospel to Cornelius, a Gentile, right, heathen, if you will call him. However, which was an Israelite, when he saw the Romans receive the Holy Spirit in the same manner he had, Peter concluded that the Most High does not show favoritism, right? Acts 10:34. After that, Peter strongly defended the Gentiles' position as believers and was adamant that they did not need to conform Well, that's off. They did have to conform, but they weren't given the weightier matters right then and there. Right? When we read Acts chapter 15, they were given three things, right? To abstain from blood, idols, and fornication.
All right, well, which is part of the law.
Which is part of the law. So that's crazy. But we see, what's going on. You guys, chew the meat, spit up the bones. Right? Right. And it says another episode of growth in Peter's life concerns his visit to Antioch, where he enjoyed the fellowship, right, Israelite believers. Right. However, when some legalistic Jews arrived at Antioch, Peter, to appease them, withdrew from the Gentile Christians. The apostle Paul saw this as hypocrisy and called it to such Peter, which we just read. That's why so you can learn a lot from them, right? Because he withstood Peter. Even Peter at that time, was to be blamed. He's the top. He's the rock of the church. He's the top disciple there, and even he got corrected. Nobody's above correction. This shows you nobody's above correction, right? And it says later in life, Peter spent time with John Mark, who wrote the Gospel of Mark based on Peter's remembrances of his time with Yahushua. Peter wrote two inspired epistles, 1st and 2nd Peter, between AD 60 and 68. Right, Yahushua saw that Peter would die a martyr's death in John 21:18. Right, Peter was the only one that was told how he was going to die. Right, let me actually get that real quick in John chapter 21, and then you can go into how he actually did die. It's John chapter 21 and verse 18. And it says, verily, verily, I say unto thee, when thou was young, thou girdest thyself and walkest thou whither thou wouldest. But when thou shalt be old, thou shalt stretch forth thy hands, right, on a cross. And another shall gird thee, right? They have to carry you, because when you are on a cross, another person will bear that cross and carry you. Right? And it says, and carry thee whither thou wouldest not, meaning to death. This spake he, signifying by what death he should glorify the Most High. And when he has spoken this, he saith unto him, follow me. And guess what? After he told him how he was going to die, he said, follow me. A lot of people would have said, hold on, you want me? They feet would have stopped in their tracks. They wouldn't have followed the Lord. They said, hold on, Lord, I don't know about that. I have some questions. Can I ask some questions first? Peter followed the Lord after that, man. All right, but he was told how he was going to die. All right, let me get back to it real quick. I'm gonna read a few more than you got it, King. All right, and it says, Yahushua said that Peter would die a martyr's death, a prophecy fulfilled, presumably during Nero's reign, right? Around the same time as Paul. Tradition has it that Peter was crucified upside down in Rome. And although such the story may be true, there's no scriptural or historical witness to the particulars of Peter's death. But we know that's how he died. Man. All right, we can go into it. What you got it, God? I don't know if you're on mute. But you got it.
Can you hear me?
God.
I was saying, can you go into the link that got the Fox's Book of Martyr? Oh, this one good too. I'm gonna read this one real quick. So this Tacitus, right now, when you read about Tacitus, like how we mentioned earlier, he's one you could say primary source rather, because he lived during those times, right? He was around those times where he that's what I'm looking for. He was able to witness Nero, which is one of the Roman emperors, and the acts that he did. Now, as the brother just read, Peter, he was killed upside down on an upside down cross. When you go into it, Peter, he was going to get, crucified, right side up, but he said, I'm not worthy. That's how Yahushua got crucified. Crucify me upside down. He got crucified upside down. But the man that did crucify him was one of the most wicked men ever, right? Nero. So let's read this top part right here, right? It says on 19, right, on the 19th through the 27th of July, 64 AD, Rome was destroyed by a great fire. Only 4 of its 14 quarters remained intact. The emperor Nero was blamed by Roman populace, and in turn blamed the Christians, right, which are the Jews, the Israelites that believed on Christ. The Roman historian Tacitus explains what happened. The translator of Annals of 1544 right? It's not known. So we read about Tacitus' writings, right? You read again how you read a lot about his writings, but since he lived during these times, he has a lot of primary accounts or witnesses that prove that these accounts that what happened to these men actually took place. It says, let me read that next part. It says, but all men efforts, all the lavish gifts of the emperor and the protestations of the gods did not banish the sinister belief that conflagration was result of an order. Consequently, to get rid of the report, Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abominations, called Christians, right, by the populace. So during that time, the reason why the Christians was hated is because they doing the same thing that we doing now. That Christian is not speaking about Christianity. It's not speaking about white G because everybody loves Christianity. If America is modern day Rome, which it is, then the same way how modern day Rome would hate the truth, ancient Rome hated the truth. If modern day Rome loves Christianity, that lets you know that's not the same Christians today as it was back then. Again, he read Acts for sake of time, we read Acts 11 and 26. It said the apostles who are Israelites, they were called Christians first in Antioch. I believe you read in First Peter 3 and First Peter 4th chapter, verse 13 on down, it mentions how men will be hated for being Christians. So that happened during the Roman Empire. That shows that what they would call the Black Hebrew Israelites, the hate group, extremists, we are the true Christians because we truly believe in Christ as it is written, right? So the point is that Nero, he hated these people. Now, the first part that we read, that first paragraph, Nero, he burned down Rome, right? Only a wicked man would do that. He burned down Rome and he blamed it on the Israelites. So it says, I'm gonna read that latter part again in that first paragraph. It says, Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures. Look at that. He didn't just kill him. Well, Lauryn Hill had that song, Killing Me Softly.
Yeah.
He didn't kill him softly. All right, he had the most exquisite. That's how you know he's Esau. All right. That's how you know the white man is Esau. Exquisite tortures for teaching the truth. It says on a class hated for their abominations, called Christians by the populace. I mean, a Christian is one that believes in Christ. It says Chris, and mind you, this is what Tacitus wrote. This is what they're saying. It says Christus, who is Christ, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during a reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our persecutors, Pontius Pilate, and the most mischievous, let's say the most mischievous superstition. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's like I lost it. The most mischievous kind of superstition thus check for the moment again broke out not only in Judea, the first source of the evil, but even in Rome, where all things hideous and shameful from every part of the world find their center and become popular. According to an arrest, an arrest was made of all whom pledged guilty. Then upon their information, an immense multitude was convicted. Not so much the crime of firing the city as of hatred against mankind. Mockery of every sort was added to their deaths, covered with, look at this, man. So this is what he did to the Israelites. If you believe in Yahweh back then, meaning you believe in him now, this is what they did to you back then. These are the times that's coming now. It says, covered with the skins of beasts. They were torn by dogs and perished. This is what Nero did to men that believed that they were Israelites and that were waking people up in the name of Yahweh. It says, or were nailed to crosses, or were doomed to the flames and burnt to serve as nightly illumination. Look at that. To serve as nightly illumination when daylight appeared. So back then they didn't have light bulbs. They didn't have what they call it lamp posts. They didn't have those. So guess what Nero did? Did you know what? I'm gonna take one of these Christians, anyone that believe in Christ, anyone that believe in Yahushua. He took their body, set it up on a stick, and lit them on fire. He said, "Look, man, we need some type of light throughout the night, so we're gonna make sure that this person burning on fire, one is a statue, not to believe in the Lord, and two is to give light throughout the streets. Now you know how off you got to be, but those things happened back then, and these times are coming back upon the earth. Nero, either he's coming back upon earth or he's back now, and these same things are gonna continue to happen.
Hey, real
All
quick,
right, you got it.
it's seeing somebody burnt, like, you know, Jason, I may see my homie get shot, or, you know, I seen somebody die in a car accident. To see somebody burn alive is not a light thing. It's not something you see on a day. You don't even see that on TV. You don't just see that on the internet. You gotta really like search for that. Somebody just perishing alive through engulfing flames being roasted, man. That's a very barbaric death. That's a very that can traumatize somebody, man. And then seeing that, showing that to your citizens multiple times at night with multiple disciples, that shows the mindset of your damn citizens, man. Because the mindset of the leader, that's off. You're getting off on that. You know, I had a precept real quick.
God.
In John chapter 16 and verse 1, because they're gonna want that for us. Burn them alive. They're gonna want to see the most horrific deaths to the Israelites. John 16:1, these things I have spoken unto you, that you should not be offended, that they should put you out of the synagogues. Yea, the time cometh that whosoever killeth you will think that he doeth God's service. And I'm pretty sure during the time of Nero, right, Caligula, during the time of these, you know, of these kings, these emperors that was putting the Israelites to death, there was citizens that loved that thing. They got tired of the gospel. They got tired of, you know, contending with the Israelites and losing. And back then, you couldn't clip a debate. You just had to take the L. You know what I'm saying? So they got tired of that. And guess what? They wanted to see Israelites burned to death, fueled by the people. You got it.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the Lord said he should be hated by all nations for my name's sake. You know, he wasn't playing when he said that. You know,
man.
Got Jake to say, yeah, I'm led to believe that Jake that heard that. And he read John the 6th chapter. Lord put a simple parable out they couldn't get you at men that turned back. You know, when the Lord said that, I guarantee there was other men. Now it's not written, but I'm guarantee you had men that said he ate the Lord. He got to be trolling.
Yeah,
got to be trolling. And he found out he was for real, and they peeled back. That's why the Lord said you got to count the cost, man. You know, the truth ain't no joke. You know, you got the brother, you got the Vanguard Naquan. He do the videos every Friday midnight on the Shabbat. He let you know what's going on. All right, when we say watch, as these times are coming, we're not playing. We're not saying that to get views or clicks. Because the same thing you read in 2 Esdras 5:42, how the Lord's judgment is like a rain. And how is there slackness of the last? There's no swiftness of the first. And the same things that happened back then during ancient Rome is going to happen in modern day Rome. It's only a matter of time. You see the laws being passed, the decrees being made. It's only a matter of time. And it's only going to get with the Lord and suffer as a Christian in righteousness, right? As a believer of Yahushua, or you're gonna wax faint, you know. So let's go back to the article. That's why it's good to go over these to remember the things that have to come upon earth again. When you read the days of old about the apostles and about men in general, you know, it's double fold, because as we reading what happened back then, we're reading the future as well, you know. So let's read this quick commentary. It says Rome was destroyed by fire. Now, right, we only probably gonna read this first two paragraphs. All right. Now the whole thing is good information, but oh man, all right. I might jump down to it. Okay, it says Rome was destroyed by fire around July 64. Tacitus stories suggest that the Christians were killed in the same summer. An early Christian tradition adds some details, such as such as the decapitation, and it's really jumping the gun, of Paul and the crucifixion of Peter, because we're gonna touch on Paul too. But look at that. the decapitation. Can you look up that word real quick so we can understand what that?
Decapitation.
Yeah, decapitation. Right. To be decapitized. I guess if that's a word. All right. To go through decapitation, meaning your whole figure is just, it says the action of cutting off the head of a person or an animal. And when you read Second Maccabees, it's more than just cutting off the head. You read in Second Maccabees 7 how they decapitized one of the brothers. They cut off his head, his tongue, his arms, all his ligaments. So and that was common back then. So let's get back to it. Beheading, getting put under that. I forgot what they call it, the beheading machine. Right.
Guillotine.
Yeah, the guillotine, man. Right, so those public execution, those guillotines, all those death sentences, public execution, firing squad, all that is coming back. All right, all this is coming back. And this is glorious too. This is really an honor. There's no bigger honor than giving up your life for the Lord. Right? There is no greater honor than giving up your life for the Lord. But these times are coming back. And you got people, they get put in guillotines for, doing heinous things back then. He was probably a rapist. You was stealing and you was committing murder. The times are coming where if you're reading the Bible, prophecies, they're going to look at that as capital punishment. In front of all the people, for you to be made an example, like how Nero did, like how Claudius did, like all these wicked emperors did, Domitian and Titus Vespasian, So let's go back to it. All right. It says, why did Nero blame the Christians? Right. The answer may see that. That's off, man. Oh, just simply teaching the words of God. It says the answer may be that they were living near the place where the fire started. Now, ultimately, we know why, because he's against righteousness. He didn't want Yahushua to be pushed. That's the true answer. But it says the eastern part of Circus Maximus. It should be noted that the first Roman Christians, look at this, were Jews, right? Now that's what they said. When we say it, it's a problem. But even scholars understand that. All right, ancient historians understand and know that. It's common. It says the first Roman Christians were Jews. I mean, who were the rest? They were the rest of the tribes scattered abroad. Because to be a Jew, you have to come from Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. If you come from the rest of the tribes, they will call you Israel or Samaritan or something to that, nature. So the rest of the tribes that weren't Jews, and guess what? They also believed in Yahushua, right? It says, I'm read that again. The first Roman Christians were Jews and probably lived with the other Jews. The way of Judaism and Christianity parted later. It says one of the Jewish quarters in Rome was just east of Circus, near the Cabian Gate. It is described by the Roman author Juvenal as a slum area, right? That's where Yahushua lived, in a slum. That's what Nazareth was. Read that in John, the 1st chapter, right? And that's a ghetto right there, a place where the Israelites are at resort. It says that there, the Christians living among the Jewish prolarian is also suggested by the presence of a very ancient church, the SS. I don't know about all that. I want to get right to the point. I'm gonna read that bottom paragraph. You can scroll just a little bit. Yeah, that's good right there. It says, I'm gonna read at the top. It says that there were Christians live. The second paragraph, Salak. It says, so there were Jews living near that place where the fire started, and there was another reason to suspect the people near the Capanian Gate. Their part of the city was not destroyed by the fire. No, but Nero could never punish the Jews of Rome. There were thousands of them. So you had thousands of Israelites in Rome. It says the Christians, on the other hand, were an easy target. And the Christians are simply the Jews that believed in Yahweh Shai. That's all it is. So on one note, that cuts when you read the book of Romans, those are Jews. And two, that shows that the wickedness that Nero did. And the reason why we touched on Nero is because why Peter was killed by Nero, crucified upside down. We read that earlier. He was Nero. He's responsible for both Peter and Paul's death. Let's get that real quick. Let's go to 2 Timothy 2:22. All right, let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 2. Maybe 1 Timothy 2:22. I have to find, man. Let me see. Maybe the fourth, or where Paul was getting led up. Maybe 2 Timothy the 4th chapter. It's like a 2 Timothy 4:22. All right, so this 2 Timothy chapter 4 and verse number 22. It says, actually, before we read 22, can we read verse 5?
Yep.
So when we read this is Paul writing this letter from prison. If I'm not mistaken, he was in prison, getting ready to go before the rulers of the city. Read that in Acts 26. Read all throughout that latter part of Acts. He was going to all these different governors because he was on trial for doing the work. He went to Jerusalem. I believe you read that in Acts as well. If I'm not mistaken, I can't remember, but I want to say Acts the 19th chapter before he went to Ephesus, and they told him, "Hey, look, don't go back to Jerusalem because you're gonna get jammed up." Say, "I got to do what I got to do." Greatly paraphrasing. So this is 2 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 5. It says, "But watch thou in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of an evangelist, make full proof of thy ministry." This is what Paul is telling Timothy to do before he gives up the ghost, because he know in the spirit he about to be out of there. He know in the spirit all these trials that he got to go through. It's only so much that he can say to keep preserving his life that eventually they're gonna off him. So he's exhorting Timothy, who he looked at as his son, and exhorting him to keep going and keep pushing in the faith. So this whole 2 Timothy, the 4th chapter, 2 Timothy in general is just an exhortation letter to keep going. Verse 6, "For I am now ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand." He said, "Look, I'm ready to be offered, being made an offering unto the Most High, a sweet smelling savor by making my body a sacrifice, by giving up the ghost." Right? And when he says departure, he's speaking about his spirit going up to the third heavens with the Most High. So he knew in the spirit that he was going to go. It says, "I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day. And not to me only, but unto all them also that love his appearing." So he knew through the spirit, that he was going to give up the ghost. And he said, "The Lord, he about to, give me a crown. I'm about to be numbered amongst the righteous." He done put in so much work. He knew in the spirit that the Lord will crown him and remember his good works. It says, "Do thy diligence to come shortly unto me." Now let's jump to verse 22. All right, after he said those mighty words of exhortation, verse 22, it says, "The Lord Yahweh Shai Mashiach be with you. Thy spirit, so be with thy spirit. Grace be with you. Amen." Right. The second epistle unto Timotheus, ordained the first bishop of the church of the Ephesians, was written from Rome when Paul was brought before Nero the second time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the last epistle that he wrote. Can you look up real quick what year was the epistle of 2 Timothy written? So this thing get real, This is not. That's why I can't stand, Christianity, because it waters down everything that we're going over right now. Now look at this. It says Paul's second epistle was likely written sometime between 64 and 65 AD. And guess what? We just read, scholars said in 64 AD, that's when Peter was crucified. You know, that's when Paul was crucified as well. Now, even though we read about Paul, guess what? And we talking about Peter. Both the point is both of them got killed by Nero, and that's the account right there. Paul, that was his final word. Well, that was his final letter. And around that time, Peter was catching the same hell. You know,
Hey,
this is real.
when you think about it too, Salakia, 70 AD is around the corner. The Lord preserved them from seeing the destruction of Jerusalem.
Yeah. hmm Yeah. We was going over, we got touched on that not too long ago too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you read about the epistles, really all the epistles. When you read, actually, can you look up real quick the epistles in order? All right. All of them is roughly around right before 70 AD. The only book that in the Bible that precedes 70 AD is Revelation. Because John, he kind of made it through there because according to the prophecy, he was kept alive. Look, yeah, that's good enough right there. Right. So these are the epistles that was written. Now, mind you, in Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13, the Lord prophesied about 70 AD, the destruction of the temple. He told them to flee. He said, look, if you still there, go, flee. Because the Romans are getting ready to ransack Jerusalem. If you don't know what 70 AD is, you may be newer. 70 AD is the biggest siege, right, that's recorded in history. Right, when the Romans came and they ransacked Jerusalem and they took all the goods and they besieged the city, they starved out, they starved us out, and they completely obliterated us. We read Matthew 24, the Lord prophesied about that, and he told the Israelites to flee. In the midst of that, you have the apostles doing the work all throughout the cities and getting them to to put their hand to the plow. So let me see. Look at that. Second Timothy, right? First Timothy, Second Timothy. I was running around 64 AD, right? 67. You got Titus. All these is right before 70 AD. You see that? All these is right before 70 AD. So that lets you know how close it was for that prophecy in Matthew the 24th chapter to come past. And even before that, during all these times, it was rebellions, it was uprisings. You had the Sakari, that was not the camp, but you had the men, the so-called, what they would say, Jewish sect, the Sakari, the Zealots, they were warned against the Roman Empire, which caused Rome, I want to say they were revolting against the Roman Empire, which caused Rome to lay that siege. So even around this time, you had wars going on, which is why they wanted to kill us off. Because there was so much, heat taking place on a physical and spiritual level. So Rome said, we can't do this. All right, and they just start cutting Jake down. And if you didn't obey that prophecy that Yahushua said, you was cut down. Right, you got it out.
Hey, real quick, because this is second missionary journey, not even his first. This is 50 AD. Paul died in 68 AD after coming into the truth. So you got to understand, he was doing the work over 18 years before it was all said and done for him. Jake, you come in the truth for 6 years and you fall out.
Dang.
Jake, you come in the truth for 3 years and it's a wrap. He's been traveling for 14 to 18 years. And this is second missionary journey. What was Paul's first? When was Paul's? Let me see this. First missionary journey. 46. So he's been doing the work for over 20 years. Over 20 years. And Jake, remember, Paul came out the world. Paul was already a grown man. He had a job. He was traveling, killing the Jews. He wasn't 12, 13. He wasn't 20, 23 years old, man. Paul was a grown man. And then still did the work for over 20 years before giving up his life. Jay, you come into the truth 5 years, 6 years, and you still smoking blunts. When Paul was already traveling, writing books.
Right.
Paul was traveling, writing books. And Jake, you still breaking the Shabbat. And you known the truth for 7 years. This is the comparison of the men that's gonna be first place in the resurrection. This is who you're fighting against, man. This is an example of what you should be like. This is who you're fighting. This is who serves your God. And you're trying to get the same kingdom as this man. We got a lot of work to do. So
I got just one quick precept too. Yeah, and not to deviate from Peter, but the reason we touching on Paul is that
it's the spirit.
Yeah, well, one is the spirit. Two, because Peter and Paul they gave up the ghost by the same man, or the same man, killed them, for lack of better terms, Nero. Let's go to 1 Peter 5 and verse number 1. So that was Paul that lived, did the work for over 20 years. Peter, he was in there longer. When you read Matthew, the 4th chapter, right? When we read Matthew, the 4th chapter, you see how the Lord newly called Peter and James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother. They weren't elders, they were young men. Now, just understanding that, you read this, 1 Peter 5 and 1, it says, the elders which are among you I exhort, who am also an elder. So when Peter gave up the ghost, understand that he was an elder when he gave up the ghost. He was an old man. All praise to the Most High. We speak about Eleazar a lot, 2 Maccabees 6. And we can't forget Peter. He was an elder when he gave up the ghost. And Yahushua, when Yahushua was doing his ministry, he was roughly around, 30, 33 years old. Peter, I'm led to believe they might have been a little bit younger than him. So that even lets you know that Peter, not only did he do his work for an extremely long time, but even in his eldership age, he continued to endure the things that was prophesied for him to go through. It says to him also an elder and a witness. I mean, he's seen these things firsthand. A witness of the sufferings of a Mashiach. He's seen the Lord get put on the cross, crucified, whipped. It says, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. And through the Spirit, he knew that he was the elect. He said, I'm also a partaker of the glory, which is the kingdom of heaven, that shall be revealed. Because the Lord already told him that we went over in Matthew, the 16th chapter. He said, the gates of hell should not prevail against you. So even in Peter's old age, he was made a martyr for the Lord. That's deep right there.
Wow.
Hey, and I want to say that's over 30 years. Because around they say Yahushua ministry was roughly, I believe they say 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. Right. So even from around 30 AD to 64 AD, that's over 30 years he was doing the work. And he was a martyr. He went out with a bang. Like as I said, you see things like that. Ain't no excuse. I'm too old to go out on the streets. Right? I'm too young to do this. I still got life ahead of me. Well, I got too many kids. Hey, Peter had a wife. Now what? All right. This is what it means to make your body a sacrifice, man. An elder. But hey, an elder crucified upside down at that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but you got it, huh?
Yep, that's exactly right. So yeah, we got to understand, man, the life of the apostles, and we wanted to touch on Matthew as well, just for time's sake. Most High willing, we have to save Matthew for next week and get into another disciple as well. But yeah, man, it was the Spirit. We really touched a little bit on Paul as well. Peter, Thomas. We have to learn from our fathers. Let me go to Romans chapter 15. You got to learn from your fathers. I'm going to NLT. Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. Such things were written in the scriptures long ago to teach us. And the scriptures give us hope and encouragement as we wait patiently for God's promises to be fulfilled. So these things that were written in the scriptures, even in history, that links up with the scriptures, these things give us encouragement as we wait patiently for the Lord's promise to be fulfilled. And we're seeing how in certain aspects we may have to die for the Lord. You got to give up your ghost. Extreme tortures. We read about some being extremely tortured. You may be lit up in Babylon, the great street. That may be your way to go out for the Lord. You may be lit up on, you may be on what's that thing in New York? The damn what's that thing?
Statue of Liberty.
Not the Statue of Liberty, but when you go downtown in Manhattan, you may be on a billboard getting lit up. Hey, however it may happen, however you may go out, myself we don't know. But all we know is what was written long ago to teach us. So we got to understand that these things are not past us. If these things happen to Paul, Peter, Thomas, the Lord Himself, these things are not past us. I'm gonna get one more precept. And you can get your clothes. Man, 1 Corinthians 10 and 11 and an NLT. These things happen to them as examples for us. They were written down to warn us who live at the end of the age. Can't get around it. These things were written down for us that's living in the end of this world right now. Why do you think the Lord documented the death of the apostles? You think He had that in there on accident? How'd you write down how they gonna die? Now we ain't gonna have no followers, and the Lord up there stressing. The Lord don't give it. He know who gonna follow Him and not bow their knees to Baal in death and in life. Right? The Lord said these things were written for us. We're literally at the end of this world. So when we're reading 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, 2 Timothy, the 4th chapter, 1 Peter, Acts chapter 12, Acts chapter 16, Matthew 26, Mark 14, Luke 21. We're reading about all of these things, these accounts, Mark 15, a lot of these things that happened to our forefathers, ultimately our Lord and Savior, is written because these things are also going to happen to us as well. I'm going to go to Amos 4 and 12. Amos chapter 4 and verse 12. Therefore, I will bring upon you all these disasters I have announced. Prepare to meet your God in judgment, you people of Israel. And that's plain. We got to prepare to meet our God in these last days, man, because He's about to execute judgment we have never seen before. Imagine all those sins the Lord let America pile up. Imagine all the sins of America the Lord has not judged them for. That they have done worse than every ancient empire on the earth. You don't think the Lord's judgment is going to be worse than every ancient empire on the earth? It's going to be you're going to see things you've never seen, go through things you never thought you would go through, but it's all going to be for the good and for the name of Yahweh Shem Yahshua. You got it.
Come on, you go to the actually go to 1 Peter, right? Go to 1 Peter 4 and verse 14. All right, so this is the reality, man. This is all part of counting the cost. You know, Luke 14:28, Luke 9 and 62. All this is a part of counting the cost. You know, this 1 Peter chapter. You go to chapter 4.
Oh, 1 Peter 4.
And 1 Peter 4 and verse 14. Right, and it says, "If ye be reproached for the name of Hamashiach, happy are ye." So the little things that we go through now, the extremely minute things, you know, you getting made fun of at work, somebody trying to joke on you, clown with your fringes, or you don't celebrate Christmas or whatever, you know, whatever they say, you know, that's nothing compared to what's coming and what our Father's been through. It says, "Ye be reproached for the name of Hamashiach, happy are ye. For the spirit of glory and of God resteth upon you. On their part, he is evil spoken of, but on our part, he was glorified. But let none of you suffer as a murderer, or as a thief, or as an evildoer, or as a busybody in other men's matters. Yet, if any man suffer, if any man wants to suffer, because everybody suffers. Or you get people that's homeless, they suffer. You know, you got these so-called Palestinians getting oppressed by Amalek, hey, they suffering. But the Lord said, if you really want to suffer, if any man was to suffer, let him suffer as a Christian. All right, let him not be ashamed, but let him glory or glorify God on this behalf. So if you're going to suffer, glorify and magnify the name of the Lord. There's no other way to suffer. Again, in this life, you're going to suffer. You in the flesh, especially if you're an Israelite. You God's chosen people. You're going to catch hell some way, shape, form, or matter. All right, whether you're in the world, whether you're thinking about going into the world, bro, you still going to suffer. that child support, all them bills, it ain't gonna disappear.
Right.
Sister, all the time you was, being made fake, that's not gonna disappear. So it only makes sense for you to suffer for Yahweh Shah's sake, for Mashiach's sake, right? It says, and glorify God on this behalf. All right, but you got it out.
Con. And like we said, Most High willing, I like that real quick. Most High willing, we can continue doing this every Shabbat, bringing out the history, the life of the apostles, the life of the disciples. Next week we can go into Matthew and another disciple as well. But the point of this, as we always say, is to remind you, on the things to come by looking into the history, and also to show you that you can't. I mean, you need to validate, to a lot of things also through faith and belief. We got the history as well to link it up. It makes the Bible irrefutable. So we go into these different things to remind Jake of the things to come and Eve to the things to come, but to also understand that this Bible is a real book. So everything in here is real. And we got to understand that. Most High willing, keep the Sabbath holy. For the brothers out there labor on the highways and byways, Lord willing, wake up the lost sheep of the house of Israel, one member of the elect. What you got it, God?
Most High want everybody was edified, and like how the brother said, you want to make sure that you taking these things into account, and also this validates the Bible. So anytime someone wants to come up against this knowledge, it's multiple ways you can cut it down. First and foremost, the precepts, and then you also have the history to back it up, the wisdom, knowledge, the understanding, coupled in with that. We went over Thomas, showing how it's Israelites in India and how he went there to teach them. Went over a little bit of Paul, through the Spirit, his death. We went over Peter and the works that he did. We're supposed to touch on Matthew too, but most I want next week we touch on Matthew and understand how the works that our fathers did, it's written for a reason. These are works that have never been done. No other nation goes hard for their God like how we go hard for our God. Rightfully so, because we only have, the only true God. You read that in John, the 17th chapter. And knowing that we got the only true God, it only makes sense for us to put our whole might and strength and serving him. And if you're not doing it, if you don't know how to do it, you got the accounts to show you how to do that. And there's no excuse. And if your hand is on the plow, ain't no looking back. Ain't no, I'm gonna go into the world. I gotta take some time. No, it is what it is. So have that mindset and prepare yourself on what's to come. Watch, be vigilant, and make sure that you really just in the spirit, because anything can kick off at any time. All right, that's it on that though. Right, I believe the brother had cut out. Nonetheless, most I want that was edifying. And like I said, most I will next week we could keep these things going. But Lord willing, Israel, you was edified with that. All praise to the Most High, Brother Marquaz. Kwame Yashala. Shalom.